Good afternoon and welcome to the July 20th, 2020 Glendale Parks Recreation and Community Services Commission meeting. May we have the roll call?
Commissioners Sabayan, absent. Everly, present. Alfayan,
Present.
Michael,
Present.
President Wilson.
Present.
The agenda for the July 2020 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, July 17, 2020.
Next item.
Item 2 is upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you, President Wolfson, members of the commission. We have 2 items coming up next month. On August 4th, we'll have a note and file report to City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority on the 2020 homeless count. And our second report will be acceptance and appropriation of Measure H funds in the amount of $32,000 for workforce development, our RISE program.
Thank you.
That's it for the month of July, August.
Next item.
Next is item 3, commission staff comments.
To my fellow commissioners.
No comment.
Commissioner Everly, do you have any comments?
Sure. I just wanted to say that I was happy to hear lots of great things about the camps that the department worked quickly to get up and running, and also about the pool, the social distancing, and just the level of hygiene. I've been hearing really good things about both of those things, and I was also really happy to see that the department is working with the school district to provide childcare. I think it's absolutely incumbent on the city to fill that gap during this time, and I was happy to see it happening so quickly.
Thank you. I had just one quick thing, which was during the last meeting, I was a little distracted. It was our first time doing the meeting this way. And, I was, not thinking too clearly at the very beginning. And during the upcoming agenda items, there was, I noticed it when I listened to the replay of the meeting, that there was a plan to go to council the very next evening to get a resolution to dispense with the bidding procedure for the Duke-Majan Park Nature Education Center Phase 4 Part 3. And I wanted to ask about this because the charter, requires us to invite bids for projects. I think 50,000 is sort of like the de minimis that, anything above that, and this is like $554,000. And I just wanted to ask, maybe this meets one of the exceptions. Could you tell us about that?
Sure, President Wolfson, members of the commission. We did take an action item to council to dispense with competitive bidding. So if council approves, then we don't need to go through the bidding process. The vendor, actually not the vendor, our consultant did go out to bid, had a informal bidding process with 4 vendors since it's a specialized project. And there are only a few contractors out there that work on nature education centers. We were comfortable with all 4 proposals that were submitted to the consultant. Our recommendation was to pick Ironwood Construction Company, which is they came in the lowest, but they're also a Glendale company that operate in Glendale, and the experience they have in building nature education centers and museums was much, they had more experience than the other vendors. They worked on a number of museums such as LACMA, MoCA, Cesar Chavez Museum in Los Angeles. So we were very comfortable with the consultant picking that company, and we went ahead and went to council to dispense with competitive bidding.
Okay, great. Thank you. I figured there was probably some explanation, but I failed to ask last time.
Yeah, the consultant did have their informal bid process. We did a review. We did talk to the bidders, and we were comfortable with Ironwood. We are very excited that the project is moving forward. This was a long project in the making, and I think it'll be a great amenity for the city to have. We're excited. I know our Trails and Open Space section is excited, and we have a number of employees that are excited with this project coming to fruition.
Great. Thank you for explaining that to me.
I have a question. May I ask, how did the cruise night go? Was it last Saturday?
Cruise night was, we had a modified cruise night. It was actually a cruise night. We basically had a soft closure on Brand Boulevard, Brandon, Dorn, all the way down to Brandon, Colorado. We had about 50 classic cars that were registered. Registration was free. We allowed them to cruise up and down Brand for about an hour, hour and a half. We did have a few vehicles park their vehicles on the side of Brand. They hung out. It wasn't as large as our previous events, but we wanted to do some type of classic car event. So why not have a actual cruise night with vehicles driving up and down? We did have a number of residents enjoying the alfresco dining, the outdoor dining that has been implemented by CDD, Public Works and Community Services and Parks. It was a good event. Less people, but we wanted to keep the momentum going for future events, so we decided to modify it a bit.
Hopefully next year we'll have the real one.
Hopefully. That's our plan.
Thank
Um,
you.
Next item, please.
Next is item 4, oral communications. Are there any callers?
Give us a moment. Somebody's no callers. No. Next item.
Next item is 5 consent items. A is approval of the minutes of the Commission regular meeting held on June 15th, 2020.
Can I move it?
Well, I have one little minor tweak if nobody else does have anything. Do you have anything on the minutes? Commissioner Eberly, do you have anything for the minutes?
No.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to note is under the COVID-19 operation update, the last part of the last sentence says commissioners asked if the credit card transaction fee can be waived. I think this is in reference to a question I asked, but I was not asking about waiving the fee. I was asking about how the city does in terms of recouping, because I think we don't charge that fee and make money off of it. We just charge it to recoup our own costs for allowing people to use credit cards. And so I just wanted to see if we could, just edit that just a little bit to make it match what I think that's what that's in reference to.
President Wilson, members of the Commission, absolutely, I can amend the minute to reflect what you just said.
Thank you.
Okay, now I move it.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll take roll call. Commissioners Babayan absent. Eberly?
Yes.
Babayan?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
President Wilson?
Yes. Next item, please.
Next is 6 action items at A, reflections, temporary art installation at Central Park. And at 1 is a motion to note and file a report regarding the reflections, temporary art installation at Central Park from September 8, 2020 through January 15, 2021.
President Wolfson, we have Jennifer from the Library Arts and Culture Department with us, and she's online, and she'll do the presentation. We also have the artist on the line should the commission have any questions.
Do
Jennifer?
I need to do anything? Or?
No.
Wonderful. Good afternoon, President Wolfson, members of the Commission, and city staff. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. My name is Jennifer Fukutomi-Jones, and I'm the Arts and Culture Administrator with the Library Arts and Culture Department. First, I'd like to provide an overview of the Arts and Culture Commission's Art Happens Anywhere AHA program, and also invite Ashton Phillips, the artist and creator of the Reflections Temporary Art Installation, to provide a detailed description of the proposal. In March 2020, the United States declared a national emergency due to the spread of the coronavirus. Immediately following this announcement, several arts organizations and performing arts venues made the difficult decision to cancel or postpone programming. The unprecedented COVID-19 global pandemic has caused devastating financial constraints to the arts community, causing some artists with the inability to pay for food, rent, and necessities. Due to the current circumstances facing the arts and culture community, on April 16, 2020, during the regular Arts and Culture Commission meeting, staff proposed to relaunch the Art Happens Anywhere AHA program with the goal of tapping into artists' creativity and engaging people in social conversation during this global pandemic. Through innovative uses of technology, audience interactivity, and unconventional delivery methods, the AHA program would seek to foster progressive attitudes towards art making, and performance, and to elevate the role of art in an enhancing community. The AHA program is also an opportunity for artists to immediately begin working on a project and would make a powerful impact in stimulating the creative economy in Glendale and beyond during these trying times. During this meeting, the Arts and Culture Commission also decided to allocate a total of $100,000 from our 2019-20 work plan, with projects ranging from $3,000 to $15,000. The AHA application opened on May 1st, 2020, and I believe information is on the screen where you can find it at glendaleartsandculture.org/arthappensanywhere. You can find more information about the AHA program. Staff received a total of 100 applications for the first round of applications. And on June 18th, 2020, during the regular Arts and Culture Commission meeting, the Commission approved 7 proposals to be funded as part of this program. One of the top proposals was entitled Reflections by artist Ashton Phillips. And right now I'd like to invite Mr. Phillips to share about his proposed temporary art installation, which would be on display at Central Park from September 8th, 2020 to January 15th, 2021.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you to the Commission for inviting me to present my proposal today. I'm very honored to be here and grateful for the opportunity to be a part of rethinking how and why art can be experienced in public in the age of COVID-19. Part documentary, part memorial, part walking poetry experience, and part meditative experimental sound art installation, Reflections is a physical and virtual art installation to be located in an open park space such as Glendale Central Park. The virtual sound art component will weave together the voices of a diverse range of LA County residents and Glendale residents with other voices from quarantined regions around the world, all reflecting on their experiences living through this pandemic. These digital voices will be virtually projected into the space, along with a physical installation of flat, durable, reflective aluminum discs. The discs will be placed into the ground in a mandala pattern, providing a visual marker of the activated space and a meditative environment in which to experience the sound installation. Reflections is a response to this moment designed to give voice to a diversity of otherwise unheard people living through this crisis and to make space in the public square for reflection on these voices and the larger experience of living through a pandemic. Reflections creates this space in a novel way that is itself a response to our new reality, rather than creating a single object or image that people are encouraged to gather around. Reflections creates a field of voices and sounds within a dispersed ground installation. Because there's no static place or object to crowd around, and because the audio experience changes as participants walk through the outdoor installation space, Reflections rewards contemplative, socially distant movement within its environment. Glendale Central Park is an ideal location for this installation because of its accessibility and its size, its openness, and its integration within the city. And it's also already a place that people go in the midst of the city to be still. On the topic of installation, the installation is fairly straightforward. forward, I will use analog surveying tools to map out the specific locations for the discs corresponding to the sound installation, and then cut shallow holes into the ground for each disc in the exact shape of the disc and seat the disc within the hole. Jennifer had asked me to talk a little bit about the installation, so I don't know how much detail would be useful for me to go into. And I know we already met with a subgroup from the Parks and Rec Commission and covered some of the details about that in advance. But I'm happy to go into more detail if that would be helpful. In terms of scheduling, I anticipate 1 week for installation.
What subgroup from the commission?
President Wolfson, what he meant to say was staff from Community Service and Parks. Myself, Teresa, and Onik joined in on a call to ask the questions as to the installation, the timeline, and the maintenance issues that may arise. And with the artists and library arts and culture department staff, we determined how best to avoid any issues for us logistically. And the artist has already agreed to some of the criteria we set in the installation and after the fact to turn the park back over to us. So I do recall he said commission, but I believe he meant staff.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was confused. Thank you.
Forgive me if I misspoke there.
That's okay. I was thinking, I didn't hear about that. How come I wasn't invited? Well, do any of my fellow commissioners, do you want to ask Kate, Commissioner Eberly, do you want to ask any questions about this? Or?
I don't have any questions. I'm excited to experience it.
I just want to ask if who's taking responsibility or liability during the show?
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. This is Jennifer from the Library Arts and Culture Department. We, as the Library Arts and Culture Department, have an art display agreement with the artist, so we would be working with the artist on liability and make sure in fulfilling that agreement.
And the date is not a conflict with the Armenian Museum being ground-breaking time?
President Wolfson, members of...
Oh,
I'm sorry, Jennifer. President Wolfson, members of the commission, I did reach out to Economic Development, and the Armenian American Museum groundbreaking will be late spring of 2021, so there won't be a conflict with this temporary art display.
I have a technical curiosity. How are you providing power and network connectivity to the discs?
Yeah, so one of the things that is pandemic responsive about this project is that it's making use of a web-based application called Sonic Maps that is affiliated with the University of Manchester and funded by the European Union's Commission on Digital Creativity. It's an application I've worked with before, and it allows sound artists to use what's called geofences to locate sound in space, and then the participant uses their cell phone to access the information. So the application uses the GPS tracking signal in the user's cell phone to project to them the space that's associated, the sound that's associated with the space where they're standing. So that means that participants will not have to touch anything, or like check out headphones or that sort of thing to listen, because they will be using their own cell phones and their own headphones. If they don't have headphones, they can project the sound on their own devices. So the discs do not need electricity, and they are a visual marker, and they're there to mark the space, to activate the space as a meditative environment, but they're not actually part of the technology of how the sound is received.
And Ashton, I'm just going to quickly jump in. I believe as part of the proposal, the art installation, you were going to add signage next to the installation for audience members to know how to interact and engage via their cell phone, but also to make sure to adhere to social distancing requirements. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
More specifically, with the proximity to the library, are you going to be able to provide Wi-Fi for those people who may not have a data plan on their cell phone?
That's a great question. I will check in with the Wi-Fi at the Central Library. I do know that it reaches to the parking lot, but I'm not quite sure if it reaches to the Central Park location, but I will investigate that.
Okay, I wanted to first of all say I really like this idea of this project. I think it's very apt, and what a great thing. And I like that it's hands-free, to try and keep us safe, keep everybody safe. I am a little curious about the cost of the project. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I'm kind of curious about that. Can anybody tell us?
Sure, I can share about the project costs, and Ashton, if you want to provide a more detailed of what the budget lines are, that'd be great too. But the overall project cost of Ashton's installation is $5,601, which is coming out directly from the Urban Art Program Plan, from our 2019-2020 work plan. Ashton, do you want to share kind of overview of what was part of that budget?
Sure. That budget includes the materials and processing for the ground installation, as well as some specific tools for that installation, some costs associated with the use of the web-based application, and also the cost of signage. There's three kinds of signage that are included in the budget: a tall sign that can be seen from the street, some decals that can be put on the ground at the entrance, all of the entrances to the park, as well as a larger sign that will contain more detailed information about the project and the social distancing guidelines.
Thank you. And then I had one other question, and I think one of my fellow commissioners kind of alluded to this, but I think it's been answered already. I was a little concerned about the discs, whether they would be raised above the surface of the ground, whether it could be a tipping hazard or anything like that. But it seems, well, I'll let you answer the question instead of my answering my own question.
Yes, thank you for that question. The discs will be installed so that they're level with the ground, and I'm going to be attaching a stake to the bottom of them that will secure them into place. So there should be no tripping hazard, no elevation or depression.
Thank you. It's I think it's a very thought-provoking and project. So thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So
If I may ask, is there going to be a lot of damage for the ground? It's all grass at this time, right? Is it grass, the floor?
President Wolfson, I could take that question. Commissioner Kalfayan, yes, you would have to excavate some of the turf to be able to make the shape of the discs to go into the ground. I believe it'd be about an inch excavation so that this will be flush to the ground. There will be no tipping hazards. We asked similar questions as you did, and I'm loving the fact you've been with us. You understand some of the challenges we face. So it will be flush to the ground, and as part of the agreement, the artist will be at the end of the art exhibit, after he removes it, we'll be turfing the areas back. So we will get the turf back in. We'll figure out how best to address that at that time, and our staff will be involved in making sure it's done to the level of expectation we have, the level of standard we have.
We need to make a motion, do we not?
Yes, that's a motion to note and file, President Wolfson.
Can I move the motion to have a temporary art exhibit on Central?
I'll second the motion.
I'm
Note
sorry,
and file.
President Wilson, it's just a motion to note and file the report.
Note and file, okay. that, do we need to, so do we not do a vote on that, or, oh, we do, okay.
We do.
Okay, so, and you seconded? Okay, perfect. So may we have the roll call?
Absolutely. Commissioners Sabayan, absent. Eberly? Yes. Alfayan?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
President Wilson?
Yes. Next item, please.
Next is 7, reports information only at A, Senior Services Annual Report, July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020.
Good afternoon, President Wolfson, Commissioners, and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Senior Community Services Supervisor, here to present the Senior Services Annual Report. If I could direct your attention to the PowerPoint we have for you today. We have 3 components in the Senior Services program, and the first is supportive services, then we have home delivered meals program, and then we have our Congregate meals program. Our supportive services program is funded through LA County's Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services Department. It's better known as case management. It's where seniors come in, and we also go into the senior's home. We have many referrals through this program. Usually our city departments assist us with referrals. We have adult protective services when the conditions are very dire, as well as our local area hospital discharge planners who are in contact with our case managers, along with our relatives and neighbors and landlords. So the supportive services program offers cleaning services, hoarding issues that seniors come across, hospice care, caregiver support, benefits enrollment. As you can see, in fiscal year 2019-2020, we served 44 unduplicated seniors with our case management services. If you compare this to last year, we served 64 unduplicated seniors. We attribute the decline, of course, due to COVID, and I'll get into that a little bit more, as well as in the summer months, we had staff turnover. So it's not just COVID related. So the supportive services program during COVID. Of course, our Los Angeles County had issued a directive to us that we needed to cease person-to-person case management services. We could no longer do home visits because home visits were the initial intake home visit, and then we would start with our care planning and coordination of services, and we could no longer do this. So no on-site meetings. So what is our alternate service delivery method that we are now currently using? Well, we're providing monthly hygiene bags. We're doing daily wellness calls to our current clientele. We are coordinating services through telephone and computer, of course. And then we reinstated our caring caller program as well, and I'll get into that a little bit more in the next slide. Our case managers are actually currently trying to come up with innovative ways. Thank you. They're trying to come up with innovative ways to work on a resource guide, a COVID-related resource guide, as well as some home activities for these seniors who are shut in, some book and TV club ideas that they're thinking of doing to help alleviate the client's social isolation. So our supportive services program, the 2 programs that we kind of reinstated in a sense. Caring Caller program was something that we had back in 2011. It was done as a collaboration with the Glendale Police Department. We would match a senior with another volunteer senior, and they would, if they had things in common, they would make phone calls to each other. It was just a nice way to socialize. We reinstated this with the Glendale PD, the community unit, and it's been really successful. We enrolled 10 of our seniors into that program, and it's working out really well. We also realized our seniors, due to the stay-at-home orders, were not being able to receive some of the hygiene products that they would need. So we thought, okay, what can we do to help them with that? And our case managers, because they were making wellness calls and their workload kind of changed, they began promoting the hygiene bag program. So every month since April, May, and June, we have been giving out 300 hygiene bags to seniors, and that includes toilet paper, paper towels, toothpaste, the basic necessities, shampoo, soap. Let me get into the home delivered meals program. Home delivered meals program is really for our seniors who are shut in. They're homebound. The requirement is they have to be 60 years of age or older, and they must reside in the greater Glendale area. And the delivery of this program is 7 frozen entrees, milk, bread, and fruit for the week. If you look at the numbers, traditionally we serve about 11,400 meals every year. This year we served 12,894 meals. Again, a little bit, it is due to COVID. Our seniors who are in this program, it's a temporary program. It is not a long-term program. Usually they have, they've been released from the hospital, they need assistance, and that's what we provide to them for a short-term basis so we can get them back on the Congregate Meals program. We want them out and about. So due to COVID, we can't do that, obviously. So it looks like the last 3 months, our seniors stayed on the program a bit longer than they would have. But we're going to get into the Congregate Meals program because that's where the main changes have happened these past 3 months. So the Congregate Meals program is a program that's been in the city of Glendale since 1979. We've had this program. The Adult Recreation Center serves about 80 average meals per week, 7 days a week. I know I always tout this, but it is something that we're very proud of. We're the only agency in all of LA County that serves meals 7 days a week to seniors. We also have Sparr Heights Community Center. The Sparr Heights Community Center serves about 40 average meals every week, 5 days a week, and this is really for our Foothill seniors and our Montrose Sparr seniors. And then we have our community center at Pacific Park. And the Pacific Park Community Center is 15 people join in Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We usually have some recreation and exercise classes before Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so then they come in and enjoy a lunch after. So let's take a look at the Congregate Meals program, traditionally how we serve. So July 1st through March 13th, we had 29,340 meals that were served at one of our 3 meal sites. If you look at March 14th through June 30th, we spiked to 31,233 meals. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward a little. So what happened on March 12th was LA County sent a directive saying that we needed to close all our Congregate Meals dining rooms. We had to offer, starting the next day, a staggered brown bag lunch pickup. So our staff had to scramble, do this the following day, and they did it so well. So on March 19th, the Safer at Home order was instated. So then we were advised to begin offering frozen meal delivery service. So Congregate Meals was changed to now frozen meal delivery to clients. Now, it must be said, Congregate Meals is a 2-part program. It's not just a nutritious meal. It's a nutritious meal, and it includes socialization. We want the seniors to come out. So this was really hard for our seniors because that's really an important part of their day, to come out, meet with friends, do the recreation activities, and then go home. So on March 19th, everything changed. So we began working with our colleagues at Public Works, and they were really wonderful. The dial-a-ride services that would offer a ride to our community centers were now allowing us to use their fleet and their drivers to deliver meals rather than seniors to the site. We were taking the meals to the seniors' homes. And we've been doing this since about March, late March. So if you look at the numbers, a normal average monthly meal is about 3,600 meals, traditionally. In March, it went up to 4,800, and then in April to 8,800, in May to 11,000, and then in June, we got all the way up to 12,477. And for July 1st, for this new fiscal year, the LA County Weed Axe Department had asked us to reduce the number of meals from 7 days a week down to 5 days a week to get everyone off this wait list. I will say we do not have a wait list anymore, but we have reduced the meals to 5 days a week. So this is our Congregate Meals program and what it looks like during COVID. It's no longer a hot meal, it's frozen meals. We have lots of employees helping out employees that would work in the recreation programs or the aquatics programs are now helping us out. We actually had our Congressman Adam Schiff come and deliver meals to our seniors, and our Mayor Barej Alajanian was also helping us out on that one day. So this year, before COVID hit, we had some interesting events and campaigns. We have a hashtag LetsDoLunch campaign. This is a Meals on Wheels of America campaign that they like to push towards agencies having congregate and home delivered. They really want to include volunteers and really recognize the importance of the program through volunteers. So this was our third annual campaign. We have city staff come out. They give up their lunch to serve a senior a lunch. So it's a really nice program. We're actually exploring ways to continue this program this year because it's held in October. So our consideration is maybe a city employee can call a senior at lunchtime, maybe have a lunch together. If a senior is very savvy and can be on Zoom. We're exploring ideas of continuing this and not kind of letting it go this year. Apologies. In October, we had our emergency preparedness event. This was in collaboration with our Senior Services Committee. We had over 150 people in attendance, and we had 12 booths set up to teach our attendees the 12 steps to emergency preparedness. Who knew we would need that so quickly? We had speakers, we had lunch, we had giveaways, and a raffle, and it was a highly successful event. I know that President Wolfson and Commissioner Michaels was also in attendance. So it was a really nice event, and we were looking forward to possibly hosting it again. So hopefully in October of 2021, we might consider doing it again. Our Thanksgiving food drive. Every year for the past 12 years, 13 years, we've been doing our Thanksgiving food drive. This is an annual event. It's very popular. Again, this is a morale booster for our city staff throughout all the departments. It's held between October 29th and November 16th. We ask city staff in their sections to please collect non-perishable food items, and we come around and we collect them, and then we pass them out to the needy seniors in the community. And some of these items are used up until the winter months, so it's a really great program. It's not just for Thanksgiving, it really helps people later on in the months ahead. And then in January, we had our Smarter Than a Scammer event. We had done this before with the Glendale Police Department and Wise and Healthy Aging back in 2016. It was a really nice event, and our Senior Services Committee asked us to bring it back, and we did. Again, we had featured speakers, resources, booths, raffles, bingo, and lunch, and we had over 200 people in attendance. And then lastly, we wanted to give you a rundown of our funding sources. This year, we were blessed in the last 3 months to receive a lot of additional funding due to COVID. Our Workforce Development Department through LA County, we have Congregate Meals Program funds, home delivered meals, telephone reassurance, supportive services, and then we were also given $45,000 to purchase a new meal van because we had one that was taken out of our fleet. We also received $45,000 in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and that was used towards meals as well because of the additional meals we're serving. Participant donations make up about $44,000. This year we had a little bit of a reduction because LA County advised us or directed us not to accept participant donations in the months during COVID. It is actually now reinstated. We also receive a general fund transfer of $84,000 from City of Glendale's general fund. And then we also had 3 competitive grants that we were awarded. Scan Community Living Grant. It was a $5,000 grant. This is what was used to purchase a lot of those hygiene bags that we bought. And then our Meals on Wheels America, we had a round 1. It's a coronavirus response funding. We received $15,000 in round one. We applied again and we received $75,000. So this money, that if it's not used, it will continue on into the new fiscal year. And then our fiscal impact. If you see the actuals in 2018, we had $430,000 in total revenues. Right now we're at $440,000, but in actuality our budget is $655,000 as we close out the year. We're still awaiting a lot of these invoices from our caterer. Our expenditures, $430,000. Currently our actuals are $395,000. And then May is, who's that guy? May is Older Americans Month, and we love May because we get to celebrate all the wonderful things older adults do and mean to us. And unfortunately this year we were not able to celebrate the way we would with our Senior Street Fest and our 90-plus birthday celebration. And we usually nominate a senior to go to LA County and really be kind of, how can I say it? They're celebrated in a sense. And so this year, the theme was Make Your Mark, and it was issued before COVID hit. So what we decided to do was we worked with our Glendale GTV6 crew, and we created a montage for you as our Older Americans Month celebration. So I'll close with that.
City of Glendale's Community Services and Parks Department looks forward to celebrating Older Americans Month, which is held in May. The theme this year is Make Your Mark, encouraging older Americans to show us all the ways they've improved our community with their contributions. This year's event has been altered due to our commitment to keep our seniors safe in these unpredictable times. As originally scheduled, special events have been postponed. Our work and purpose has shifted from coordinating celebrations to shifting our senior nutrition program to be able to deliver meals to seniors who are practicing the safer at-home orders. Since March, the Senior Services Unit has provided over 5,000 monthly meals to seniors 60 years or older, made thousands of well-being calls, provided hygiene bags, and we continue to enroll more seniors into the program during the COVID-19 pandemic. That being said, we reflect on the many happy occasions we have had to celebrate, our Senior Street Fest and our 90-plus birthday party. We look forward to coming back bigger and better in the upcoming year. Wishing all our Glendale seniors a happy and healthy Older Americans Month.
That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Commissioner Everly, do you have any questions? Or?
I have a question. We received an email from one of our constituents who is concerned about physical activity for older seniors, and I'm just wondering if, I don't know if this is more of a Maggie question or a Sevi question, but his email sort of stuck with me, and I'm wondering if you all have come up with other ideas for how we can continue to support the seniors that we can't physically access during this time. And also, I just wanted to say, Maggie, that was a great presentation, and I'm so proud of the work you're doing. Thank you so much for your service.
President Wilson, members of the commission. My name is Sabah Garabedian, Senior Community Services Supervisor. Commissioner Eberly, if I heard your question correctly, I want to repeat it. We had received an email from a senior regarding physical activity and engagement of seniors while they're at home, correct?
That's correct, and I understand that that might be more your area too, but it seems like mental health and physical health are so intertwined during this time when seniors are alone at home.
Sure. Commissioner Eberly, what we did when we first went safer at home, we basically stopped all of our activities, our drop-in activities in our community centers and our buildings. We did start asking our instructors that teach our exercise classes, our drop-in exercise classes, if they'd be willing to teach classes from home. Original response that we received from our instructors was, no, not at this time, we just want to wait it out, we just want to wait it out. Much like all of us, we weren't anticipating this to be a 4-month, 5-month, God knows how long month closure. So their original feedback, their response was, we want to wait it out. Starting in July, however, I did talk to, towards the end of June, let's say, I did talk to our instructors one more time and said, listen, There is no end in sight, at least for senior services and senior programs. We just don't have a timeline, and we don't anticipate coming back next week or any for the foreseeable future. So let's rediscuss this opportunity to provide classes for our seniors. We've had 2 instructors already commit to providing these classes online, one of which was a line dance class, which took place earlier today. It's taking place every Monday, and it's a 2-hour class, and they're doing it via WebEx every Monday. And then we have our Zumba instructor who's teaching class 3 times a week. Last week was the first week we offered class. We had about 5 participants in that class. And within August, by the time August comes, we're going to start adding some aerobics and some muscle toning classes as well. So those are the 3 instructors that have already showed willingness to be able to do these classes from home. In addition to that, Maggie and I have been working on an opportunity to do presentations for seniors from home. And one of my biggest concerns is not every senior has the ability to participate, whether it's data or some sort of smart device or anything along those lines. We just didn't have that network base. We would see our seniors coming in every day. We would say hi to them. We would greet them by name, but we didn't know what their abilities were at home, what their capabilities were at home. And slowly but surely, we're just saying, we're just going to send a message out. Even if it's not the seniors that we traditionally served on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, there's a larger community out there that we're going to be able to attract and incorporate. So I hope that answers your question, Commissioner Everly.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kalfayan, do you have any questions?
Regarding, we're blessed to have these programs in this country. It's a big asset. The meals that we send them frozen, are they quality and they can have nourishment for them to stay home and eat it and enjoy it?
President Wolfson, Commissioner Kalfayan, we have stringent rules with LA County Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services. We have a County Nutrition Services Association that comes in monthly to check up on the meals. They check with the caterer. They check our kitchen, which is our central kitchen. They also check our meal sites. It is highly enforced, highly regulated, and we follow policies and procedures through standard operating procedures that we have through LA County. So it is probably going to be the most nutritious, and we have to follow guidelines with sodium and nutrition content and fat content, all of that. That is definitely the biggest component of the program that we have to follow.
How much we pay for a box? Do you know approximately?
So to pay for a box of the meals, one meal with the juice, the fruit, the bread is $3.78 a meal. That is what we pay. The caterer.
Are we serving outside anything right now? Dinners? Are we serving like luncheons for seniors for outside?
I'm sorry, can you elaborate?
Like, we have outside the area garden. Are we using it at all to serve anything?
Unfortunately, we're not, because it's such a compromised population that we have been advised not to, actually, even when they come in to pick up lunches. So there's 3 ways of receiving meals through this program. The first is brown bag lunches. That's a cold lunch. It's usually a sandwich, a salad, and a drink, and they're picking it up in a staggered way. Either they pick it up on a south side of the building or on the north side of the building, so we don't have too many seniors congregating and they practice safe social distancing. That's the first. And then we also have seniors that come and pick up the frozen meals, and they usually do a drive-through, like a grab and go. And then of course we have the seniors that we deliver to. So there's 3 ways of picking up the meals or getting their meals to them. But we don't allow them to linger and to congregate anymore, due to the safer at home order and due to social distancing.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to go ahead and commend your and the staff's adaptability, flexibility at this time. Speaking to Commissioner Kalfayan's comments, I have enjoyed going to the different senior lunches when they hold their holiday events, and can attest the meals taste better than I expected. So the meals are very nutritious, very high quality. I have no concerns that they're continuing to meet those standards. Do have a couple of questions. The Caring Caller program. I know that the socialization of the meals programs is what's missing and lacking most. Is there a way to expand that or encourage volunteers to engage with that population?
Commissioner Michaels, we're actually exploring, now that we know that this is going to be a long-term pandemic, and we've been advised that it'll probably go through winter and possibly spring, we are exploring as a team ways to help seniors not feel as isolated while they stay at home. And those were some of the things that we're considering, ways to either have volunteers call, match people up with each other, somehow, some way have some sort of, even a lunchtime with 3 friends and teaching them how to be on call with each other. We are really looking into that. This is our next phase that we're looking to. The first phase was pretty much putting a Band-Aid on the situation, and now that we've kind of got the momentum that we know these are the number of meals we have to serve and this is how we're going to be doing the routes, now we're going into the next phase, which is how do we help these seniors who are isolated. And we now know, it's interesting how important our program is, because we've always been, we always tell everyone it's nutrition and socialization, but now we really see how important the socialization aspect of this program is. It's a huge component. So we are open to any ideas.
Thank you. I know that things are changing, and I appreciate just how the staff, for example, pulling staff from aquatics and other facilities that would be closed to deliver meals. I appreciate that, and from a standpoint of keeping people employed, active, using resources. So I just appreciate what you have done with senior services.
Not to sound like a broken record, but I think it's incredible what you did and how, you had to hit the ground running. Nobody knew what was going on. Nobody understood what was going on. We still don't, frankly, really. It's just a very uncertain and unsettling and unpleasant thing, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing, so I want to put that out there too. And I'm really glad that the Caring Caller program has been reinstated. I think that's one way to try and combat the isolation that people are feeling. And I don't know, I'm going to rack my brain a little bit, and if I can think of any ideas. I was also concerned about the email from the gentleman about not being able to use the park facility, and I did send him a reply. I think we're all grieving a great deal for, when we were talking about the activities, I just felt close to tears, frankly, remembering how nice it was to go to things. But like the Queen said, we will meet again, we will do these things again, and we have to just, we have to do what we're doing right now to protect people. So anyhow, thank you so much for what you do.
President Wolfson, could I ask another question?
Sure.
I was just in the report that you submitted. I had difficulty understanding the different programs, and specifically the Great Plates program, and how some people are ineligible for that program, but we still can't meet the needs of the people who are under the poverty line, sort of. If you could just explain that, that would be very helpful.
I'll be more than happy to. The Great Plates program is a program through Los Angeles County. We have about 130 plus seniors that are signed up from Glendale into this program. Interestingly enough, they have to make more than $2,100 a month to be eligible. They also have to live alone. They have to be affected by COVID somehow, or prove that they're affected by COVID. They can't be on some sort of federal assistance program, so there's a duplication of benefits issue with that. the seniors we serve are usually highly low income. So we have a different group of the senior population that we serve. They are not making the $2,100 a month or greater income. So they're in that other category. So the Great Plates program fills that gap for those seniors who need to stay at home but are unable to leave. They can call 211 and they can enroll in that program, or at least be considered to be enrolled in that program. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
My pleasure.
President Wolfson, I just wanted to take a minute to thank staff, both Maggie Kavarian and the supervisor, Eileen Isayan and Melina Amazaspian. The staff has been working so hard in first converting the services from what we used to do to what we had to do, but also actively, being there daily as essential employees, but also constantly looking for additional funding because there's always a need. And as Maggie just explained, a lot of our seniors don't even qualify for the Great Plates program. So the county turns around and sends them back to the city to be able to serve meals. So they're constantly looking for grant opportunities and applying for additional funding. So I really, truly want to thank our team and just let them know that what they've done these few months, and of course every day of the year, but especially the last few months is greatly appreciated. So thank you.
Especially, if I may say, our meal coordinators and our meal drivers are just spectacular. They really have stepped up and have worked really hard to serve the public.
We all appreciate it. So, next report is
Next item, 7B, Community Centered Drop-In Programs Annual Report.
President Wolfson, there is no prepared presentation for this report, but you do have the report in front of you, and we do have staff here to answer any questions that you may have, but we didn't have a presentation prepared because we had other reports, so we figured we would make this available as a question-only report. So if there's any questions, we're happy to answer.
Anybody have questions?
I have a question. I was just wondering whether there's been any thought given to sending out kits. I know the library has a program where you can check out like knitting kits and guitar kits and things like that, and I was wondering if there would be some kind of physical activity equivalent that CSP could do for people who would otherwise be doing group classes, just try and incentivize people to continue with their physical activity.
President Wolfson, Commissioner Eberly, we do have the virtual classes that we've done. I could let Sevak talk about the kits if we've prepared any kits or are considering that. But I just also want to remind the commissioners and the viewing public that we have the Glendale Parks at Home website, which also has great links to the classes that are being offered that they could follow at home and follow along. There's some activities, and then of course the virtual classes, which Sevag will go a little bit more in depth as part of his Recreation and Community Services report.
President Wolfson, members of the commission, my name is Sevag Garabedian. So Commissioner Eberly, we do have some kits that are going out to homes for those students that are enrolled in specific programs. For example, our STAR program participants, we have about 21 to 22 STAR program participants that meet on a weekly basis. Ever since schools have been remote learning back in March, these program participants weren't getting the exposure in their weekly face-to-face interaction. So what we did was take over our arts and crafts kits that were supposed to be used for our spring day camp program and provide that to our STAR students. Within the last couple of weeks, our Glendale Police Department, who we partner with and collaborate with for that program, they're going to be providing these crafts for these students so that when they meet every other week, they could have some sort of activity they could do together. In terms of our youth programming, if you look at our recreation report, mainly our drop-in programming for youth is playing basketball or playing billiards or some sort of activity, game room, center-based program, and not so much a craft or enrichment program, so to speak. So our main focus has been our day camp program for these next couple of weeks. We have 2 weeks down, 4 weeks to go, 3 weeks and 4 days to go. And that's where our primary focus and goals on the crafts are until we could get up and running. What we've done is asked our colleagues, our peers at the Library Arts and Culture Department to come up with some sort of activity and craft that we could provide to our seniors. So when we're delivering the meals to a senior's home, we could provide some sort of craft or activity to the seniors that they could do, whether it's simple Sudoku or crossword puzzles or anything along those lines. Any kind of program or activity Library Department, Library Arts and Culture Department is pushing out, we could have them take advantage from there. As you mentioned earlier, we were talking about our childcare program with GUSD, and as we figure that out within the next couple of weeks of what that program is going to be and how that's going to take shape, then we could discuss having some sort of craft or activity that's just going to be available to the general public. For that, we've been holding off on these expenditures, so to speak, to see how much money we have left, how much savings we need to turn in, and how much money we anticipate on spending. So we've kind of been stingy keeping it to the programs that are already established that have those programs until we could figure out where we're going and how we could start taking care of a greater number of community members.
Thank you.
Looking at, you do mention the fiscal impacts and addressing staff. Have you been able to keep staff or shift them to other programs like the senior services and keep staff, or has staff been cut?
So President Wilson, Commissioner Michaels, when it comes to staff for our community center drop-in programs, any of the staff that were being paid to teach a class for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours long, that staff we weren't able to retain until we were able to convince them to come back and provide those classes virtually. Now, the staff that were working in the community centers, we were able to augment their schedules, their shifts, and make them available to our senior services unit. And it's not to take anything away from that entire unit or the program, but yes, they're the ones delivering the meals, but it takes the entire department or recreation staff to be able to provide that. And what we did early on was we said, okay, this week you're gonna come to the staff at Pacific Community Center. Next week, don't come back to Pacific Community Center, go to Maple Park instead. And the following week, go to Sparr, then go to Aquatics, and work your way down every single one of our buildings and centers, and then go back so that the staff have an equal opportunity to get those additional hours. Early on, our hourly staff was really concerned about the lack of hours, not getting paid, and we were directing them all to apply with EDD until everybody kind of got the understanding by the time they applied. All of our staff are still on the books. Those who are not on the books, they've asked to leave based on at their own will. So the ones that we still have on the books, they're the ones that actually have been calling me throughout the pandemic saying, hey, do you need any help? What's going on with the buildings? Could I provide, could you get me hours serving meals or anything along those lines? And wherever and whenever possible, we do have those staff working. So it was EDD and the city hours that was making up for their loss of wages during the pandemic. Now with our day camp program back, all of our facility attendants, our rec leaders are now working in our programs, which is great, but it's also gives us a new challenge. Who's going to be delivering the meals for seniors? So now our total number of staff has been reduced. So it's a constant struggle of, do I get camp covered? Do I get the meals program covered? Which one do I sacrifice on each day so that we could make both programs work simultaneously?
I appreciate your efforts to keep everything working and do want to go ahead and keep informed of the progress.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you for everything everybody's doing and adjusting to the situation and finding ways to deal with it. And I'm surprised that our numbers didn't drop even more, considering, I mean, obviously the previous program we talked about, obviously we're going to see an increase in the numbers, but this one, I mean, it shows how much our community appreciates the services that CSP offers, and appreciates the high quality of what our department does. So I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Next, is there any next? I think we have 2 more reports. Yes.
Yes, the next item is 7C, Park Services Section Activity Report for June 2020.
Good afternoon, President Wolfson, members of Commission, Coco Panosyan Park Services Activity Report. The written report today covers the month of June activity, and we do have a presentation if we can get through the technical difficulties we want to show you. And these projects kind of go back to a few months since the days of COVID, since we haven't had opportunity to present. We've consolidated a few of the projects to be able to show you if we're able to get to that. As for the month of June, we had 229 work orders completed for non-routine work. 204 work orders completed by groundskeepers, 3 by pesticide applicators, and our irrigation crew completed 22 work orders, 653 labor hours. And it seems we are still loading our presentation. At this time, to save some time, if there were any questions from the commission, I can entertain those, and we'll be able to get back to the presentation.
Well, looking at the work orders, there are quite a large number of sanitation work orders, and I certainly appreciate that. Can you clarify what facilities might be open at parks, such as restrooms, or what park goers might be able to plan on?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, President Michaels. Commissioner Michaels, President Wolfson and the members of commission. So our parks are all open. There are some guidelines still set by the state and our county as to amenities we are unable to use. So those amenities remain closed, such as playgrounds, picnic shelters, sport fields. Those are closed to the public for general use. And the way we have been displaying that is we do have signs at all of those locations at every park, and then we caution tape them. That is an indication that those amenities, based on the guidelines and our inability to keep them sanitized for the public use, those are closed at this time. We ask for the public's cooperation in making sure they not use those amenities until we're at a point where we're able to deliver to them back safely. The parks being open, all of our trails are open. We do have general park for passive recreation is open. You're able to go and visit the park and enjoy it with your family. We have not stopped those activities since day one. The parks have always been open, with the exception of initially the sports complex and Shoal Ball Field, given that they are only for athletic uses. Those were closed initially, but right now, given the permitted activities for sports camps that are allowed under the state and county guidelines, we do have them permitted for those uses as well. So generally speaking, the parks have always been open. The restrooms are always open. And thank you for the question. Since day one, we started sanitizing the restrooms 3 times a day versus just once a day as we normally would. We used to wash the restrooms and foaming the entire restroom down more on a once a week, twice a week basis. We're doing that daily, as well as 2 additional sanitizations. And the work orders only here reflect the weekend crew submitting their work order for additional sanitization. We do have a normal 2-week schedule that our field staff follow for their normal routine work. Those are the areas where it has been mentioned. That's where they're capturing the additional work for sanitization.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. And it seems we are good to go with the presentation, unless there are any questions at this moment.
I actually have a follow-up question, which is, can you speak to the protective equipment that you've issued to cleaning staff?
Yes, Commissioner Eberly, we do have PPE issued to all of our staff. All of our staff have variety types of masks. We do have the N95 mask for certain tasks. We have the KN95 mask for regular wear. We also have the surgical mask that we ask staff to wear when they're either within the truck, traveling somewhere in the morning, when they're coming into the offices, and then we're in the field. And I know this has been an issue in the past. At 105-degree weather, when you're working in the sun, wearing a mask does not really quite do well. We're going to be delivering staff to emergency centers for being suffocating. So we have applied what's been safely applied at a lot of other agencies. If you're out in the field and there's no one around, there's no social distancing issue, you are able to take your mask off while you're doing the heavy physical labor in the field. So all of the staff have the PPE available for them, whether it be gloves, masks, and all the sanitizing tools and equipment that they need to keep up with their daily routine. Have there been any complaints about unsafe work conditions in this context? Commissioner Eberle, from our staff, we have not, because we do provide the staff all of the PPE that that is necessary to do the job safe. I mean, we care for public health as well as our staff's health. So we have not had any complaints directly about staff not being having the necessary safety equipment, PPEs.
I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
So as far as the presentation goes, I know we have a number of projects, so I will do my best. Instead of saying next slide, every single slide, there are several slides, I will say next project to help the folks at home keep up with the project as we have the delay. The first project we worked on, Mr. Bulunikan touched on this earlier. It seems to be the old one, though. It says Dine Shop still. This is alfresco outdoor dining. This was initiated by Economic Development, and we had a number of departments participated in this process in making sure we provide areas for restaurants to have set up outdoor dining. And we participate in the logistics. Our staff helped with setting up the tables and the chairs, assembling the tables and the chairs. We were tasked with getting all the trees and the landscaping within pots and planters in those areas so people could use. We had two ultimate locations. One was on Brand Boulevard. There are a couple of sites that we've installed this, and then at Montrose Shopping Park were several others. And as you can see from the pictures provided, the barricades were come in to keep the cars from running, and that was addressed by the colleagues at Public Works. And we did work with a consultant hired by Economic Development, Studio 111, that helped design the styles and the ordering of what they wanted to see and the spacing with the umbrellas and the tables and the planters. And here is the outcome. And it seems to be fairly well accepted by the community and the restaurant owners. And we're hoping that this will continue to get people to Glendale, because especially now that we do not have indoor dining any longer by mandate of the state. So we're hoping this would actually alleviate some of that for the business as well as our people, our residents, to be able to enjoy dining in these areas. So we covered Brand, and then we have, again, Montrose Shopping Park. Our staff delivered the trees to our Brand Park yard because it made it easier to have all the trees delivered there. From there, all the trees were moved to the ideal locations identified by the consultant at the respective restaurants and laid out on the street for the planters as well as the trees and the tables and the umbrellas. And you can see they are very colorful. Part of me has a feeling that this might be a request to keep them for not a temporary solution, more of a permanent solution, because even I, when I visited and I saw it being installed, thought it really looked good overall. So the next project is going to be some modifications and renovations over at Adams Square Mini Park. As you note, Adams Mini, being a very small park, does have a lot of landscaping, and all we've done is take a step approach to enhance the landscaping on more constantly at the facility, as well as mulch the planters to avoid the weeds growing in it. This is a project that did both of those. Some of the planters that were overgrown, we reduced the planting and did some shrub maintenance. You could see a pile in this picture. Actually, I can't even see because I'm not wearing my glasses. That along the Adams, along Palmer, the planter was cleaned up to make it more susceptible and usable for the people to pass, and then allow us to make it look more beautiful, let me say. And then after it was done on both sides, on Adams' side and on Palmer's side, we took the planters, we replanted some dead areas, and then we mulched the areas to keep the weeds down, as well as keep the moisture to have the plants be more healthy and reduce our water consumption. So the next project is going to be Brand Park Day Camp. This is the area in the north side of the library. If you recall, last year we reinvigorated the area by putting new picnic tables and opening it up back to the public for picnicking. The roadway that led up to this location needed a lot of help. So we worked with our friends in Public Works Engineering through a contract they established. We ordered a contract to be resurface this area, and this is what it looks like. I mean, the red curb is designed specifically to keep the cars from parking in this area because there's no parking, but residents are able to drive up through the Circle Drive, and a little further south in the picture, you notice there is a little yellow painted curb. That's where we ask residents to come in to unload their picnicking material and then enjoy their day, move their cars down to the parking lot. There's just one picture we wanted to show you this work because we feel it was an essential work that needed to be done, and our colleagues in public work engineering were a big help in making sure this project got through. The next project will be enhancements at Palmer Park. We've been on an ongoing pace at Palmer Park, taking small stabs at projects that we had in the back burner. This is on the east side of the park, next to the basketball courts. We're going to be replanting here as well. We planted some trees and then continue with the mulching in the area. The parking lot was severely overrun by weeds. So we went in, cleansed everything, cleared it out, and we changed the irrigation to pop-ups in this area because with what we had, the drip irrigation, it was not quite working well. As the kids run through, they're damaging and they're tearing it up. It kind of led to the decline of the landscaping in the area. So the first task was go in there. We did change the irrigation into the pop-up sprays. They're low-emission sprinklers. And after we cleaned everything out, we applied the pre-emergent herbicides. That helps keeps the weeds, from growing. And then after that, mulched. So this is the parking lot area. And then as we move inside, the turf area in the south end, we used to have a lot of water piled up, whether it be irrigation, just the natural slope of the park took you to that location. We had a small drain installed in that location. It seemed it didn't quite do the job, so we had to go in and install a larger drain to capture the water and divert it into the main storm drain from this location. That's what this task was. The staff did install a drain. And then also, this is the south end of the basketball courts. We did have plants in this area that did not survive. We had 2 trees that did not survive. As part of our renovations, we went in again, changed out the irrigation in this location, planted trees. We planted some new landscaping. We mulched it. And as you see this corner end, this is where people would just walk right through. It kind of became more of a passageway for individuals that are playing in the basketball court. We felt that's most efficient way to go about preserving this area is to concrete it. Gives us more maneuverability in the area as well. So this tip end of that planter, we placed the get it all set up, and then we poured concrete using our staff. And here's what it looks like right now. It allows for more maneuverability by our trucks, our vehicles, as well as the people playing and running around this area. And then I'm happy to say that the new landscaping is thriving in this location with the new sprinkler systems. We also had a lot of issues with weeds in the entrance to the park. You see, this is a sign of the fencing off the Palmer side. With the weeds growing right underneath the fencing because it is dirt, it made it a maintenance challenge for us to keep up. So our approach was, let's get rid of the weeds, let's form it and frame it, and let's pour concrete right under that fence line so we don't have to worry about weeds growing under the fence line, and we can manage the weeds within the planter that's adjacent to it. So that's the task. We did finish the east side of the park, and we have now moved on, and we've framed, this is the west side of the park by the playgrounds. We have framed it. It's ready for pour in the next couple of weeks. When we finish our current projects, we're going to be going back to Palmer to try and finish this job. The next project, again, mulching. During the COVID, I reported last month that we've taken the opportunity of fields not being used and a lot of the amenities not being open to the public. We use those opportunities to do some enhancements. One of them was aerifying our ball fields, which we've done a number of, and then the other task was mulching. We used opportunities to mulch planters. And the Riverwalk being one of our sites that we deal with a lot of weeds, given that this is an area where we have not used, we do not use pesticides to control the weeds, more manual labor. We continually look at the landscape as the planters start showing more weeds and as the mulch start deteriorating, because naturally it does deteriorate. We've come in and refurbished the mulch in those areas. And the next couple of pictures highlight the tasks in the central location of Riverwalk for remulching the area. So the next project would be a similar mulching program over at Verdugo Park. We had done at Verdugo Park is mostly looked at the trees now. What you notice is a lot of our mature trees that had been showing decline over the years. The last couple of years, the attempts we've made are showing that increased reinvigoration of the trees in the northern end. This is one of the reasons why mulching around the perimeter of the tree, keeping the people away from the trunks of the tree and vehicles coming onto, closer to the trunks of the tree, which, compacts the dirt and thus affects the roots of the tree declining its health overall. We use this opportunity to mulch the trees in that area. And a lot of the trees, you will see that turf is taken away. Obviously, when you mulch, you have to use some of the turf areas. But for the health of the tree, we felt it was necessary. And we are seeing the impacts of this task. And also down towards the southern end of the park, where we have Stengel Field, similarly, where we had trees planted in that area, we remulched the entire landscape there. It helps keep the weeds down and gives it a nicer feel and look for that location. Glorieta Park ball field. This was one of the bigger tasks we took on this past couple of months. Glorieta Park used to look like this after it rains. And yes, those are ducks that would come in and they would swim in what we call the Glorieta Pond. Part of the reason is Glorieta Park is built in this location specifically on a reservoir. It does not have a lot of depth for the water to percolate normally, so we rely on the drainage that was in place. The drainage that was installed many, many moons ago was not really functioning to the level that we hoped would do it. So this was a result after rainy days. The first task we did, we were going to renovate the ball field anyway, but we took on the task of installing new drainage at this location. Before we did that, we have to excavate all of the grass because this was not a TLC, this was a whole overhaul of the park, of the ball field, complete renovation. This is the stripper that we had done a couple of years ago, if you remember, at Shoal Ball Field. Similarly, we brought in the same equipment to strip off the top layer of the turf and, very limited, about an inch of the soil to make room for us to bring in new soil amendments to get the turf ready for sod installation. At the same time, we did take an opportunity and removed a lot of areas of turf that we will reduce turf at this facility. This is the installation of the drainage. We put in a number of irrigation lines. I don't have the actual number at hand, but we had to trench down to about almost 2 feet, lay out gravel, lay out irrigation pipings, as you see in this picture, and then cover it back up with the gravel, and then with the soil, compact it, get it ready for the actual installation of sod. And this picture is supposed to be panoramic, and we're not able to successfully show you the panoramic picture because there was a lot going on during this project in that one field, whether it was excavation, whether it was installing drainage, and that didn't come out the way we expected it to. We hired a consultant contractor this time to do all of the grading. Given one of the reasons why you see a lot of the ponding in the field is the grade wasn't, especially in the outfield, the grades were off a little bit from years of play. Similarly, when you get water that sits, damages the turf or whatnot, and over the years, we did have an uneven outfield. So with this task, with the contractor, they did grinding. We added a lot of the soil to level the entire field, have it ready. It was laser level in the infield to allow for play. Obviously, as you excavate, there's a lot that comes out of the ground. This is a sample of what they used to have, the old drainage system, and a lot of rocks that came out of the field that had to be hauled away to make room for, you don't want to have rocks on the field before you do lay the sod. And as we normally do on these big jobs, we hired a company, the sod manufacturer, and they also lay the sod. They bring them in these big rolls, they're 100-foot rolls, and they'll bring it out, they'll lay them out as you see on the field, and then they'll spread them with their heavy equipment. We roll it, we have it all compacted, and then set the irrigation going to let it sit and rest. Lucky for us, the fields were closed. We're able to do this job without impacting any specific games. And although we apparently have had, this past couple of weeks, people jumping the fence to play, and our police department has been very helpful in asking them to leave, the field is getting its rest right now. It will be open to the community when, I guess, COVID is done and we have the fields operationally ready to go. And speaking of COVID, we've had a lot of questions about, caution taping and what we do. One of the questions earlier is how do we keep these amenities secured? We do have some challenges. And then here's where we need the public's assistance in making sure they respect the signs posted for amenities that are not open for the public. Here's a sample of the signs that we had put up for especially playgrounds. We had these signs at every playground throughout the city, more than one per facility, as well as caution tape the entire playground areas. This is Dunsmore. The first one was Cerritos. And here is the result, including with the picnic tables. Residents that want to use these amenities, and I could understand just being home cooped up all the time, they need to get out. And parks, I mean, they truly do make life better. That's the reason why we are here. With everything closed, the only avenue people had to get out of the house was our parks. And we welcome that. We want people to come and use our parks. We only ask for their assistance to, respect the fact that picnic tables and playgrounds are still closed, and not to tear down the caution taping and to use it. It has been constant as they tear down the caution tape. We want to make sure the community knows that these still are not available for use. Every morning, staff puts caution tape back up. And in some instances, unfortunately, within 5 or 10 minutes, somebody else comes in and tears the caution tape down to use again. We've practiced, just education and trying to get people to understand why these areas are closed for use. Challenging at times. We do have a lot of residents that respect and follow through the guidelines, and we appreciate that. We are hoping and pleading with the rest of our residents to comply as well. This is just a picture of a typical weekend, the amount of litter that gets accumulated. The parks are very heavily used still. Even some of the picnic areas, and people bringing their own tables and having their picnics. So we're still experiencing a lot of litter and heavy use in the parks. Again, more pictures of our playgrounds and the caution tape. This was just as of this weekend, July 18th, Saturday. Our weekend supervisor said, I have another example for you. Again, I just asked them to post for us to share with commission. And again, not only, even if caution tape is there, people are using the amenities. Here's a picture of Brand Park, very active. And also, as part of it, in working with our homeless program, we did bring a lot of hand washing stations and porta potties. This was early on when the COVID started, and we did have them at some of our parks as well, not knowing at the time whether it would be asked to have parks closed down as well. Because in the first weeks, we just did not know what amenities were going to be closed, whether parks or restrooms would be closed. We were lucky that ruling did not come down. We were able to keep the restrooms open, and we applied our sanitization program to keep the public healthy and using our parks without fear of, getting infections. Hence, we had brought in porta potties and washing stations. It was at a number of parks. We have removed it from Palmer Park at Carr Park with the public's request because the restrooms are open. There was no need, but we do have a handful of these across town in areas where it's not a public park, but areas that frequently people will visit, and we wanted to make sure they have hand washing stations. That concludes the presentation. If you have any questions that I can answer, I'll be happy to do so.
Any questions from my fellow commissioners?
Other than our thanks and appreciation.
Yeah.
Commissioner Eberly, do you have any?
Oh, I just say the same. Thanks to the staff for the tireless work putting up that tape and doing all the other improvements.
Thank you. We have some exciting projects also coming up in the next couple of months. We'll be sharing with you some real exciting projects that we have coming up.
I just wanted to also say thank you. I also wanted to ask two questions. One is, I know, like, for example, Glendale Narrows Riverwalk, in the past, we've had these days where volunteers come. I've done it myself to help with weeding and mulching and so forth. How are we doing in terms of, we don't have those volunteers coming because of COVID. Has that affected things?
I would have deferred this question, but I do know that there was a couple of months, President Wolfson, that the Take a Hype group, who we work with very closely, and our Trails and Open Space program staff, Devron Shudik, they did take a couple of months off from this program, where it was Duke Majan and Riverwalk interchangeably, where we have volunteers come in and help out. I believe last month was the first where they proposed and initiated a mechanism where they would practice social distancing, wearing the masks, and I believe it started in Duke-Majan earlier this month. I'm going to say I don't have the actual dates, but it seems to slowly be looking at that as an option, and with the group running the program, presenting us with the social distancing approach that they have and the tasks that they're going to do. Likely probably start off again with smaller numbers of volunteers, but it's something that down the road we look for enhancing that, getting it back onto track.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. And the other thing I was wondering is, are there any alternatives to the caution tape that might be less likely or less harder for people to tear off? Have we looked into that?
President Wolfson, there are options, yes. This past couple of weeks, I've taken part in calls through, CPRS. We do have the development operations section where individuals in my position or in my field get together and discuss some challenges that they have. As early as last week, we also said on LA League of California Cities, this was one of the questions that I raised. And it seems a lot of the agencies are being challenged the same way we are when it comes to caution taping. Kids want to play on the playground. It's really difficult to tell a little kid, oh, look, here's candy, you cannot have it. So that playground is just like that for a kid. So some agencies are experiencing the same thing. Some have opted to fence the playground. Now, those agencies are smaller in size. They have about 4 or 5 playgrounds that they have opted to fence off, and that has helped a little bit. Compared to us, we have over 30 facilities that have playgrounds, in some cases 2 playgrounds. It's a matter of balance whether you want to fence off a playground, especially in a mini park where there's a playground, a couple of picnic tables, and not much else. It is not an option we opted for at this time. Is it something we're considering and having discussions with our director and the city manager's office? Yes, we are contemplating different options as to how we can secure it better. Other agencies have gone to even construction fencing, the orange fencing that you normally see. Apparently that has not worked well because they're just easy to climb over or tear down to be able to get in. Even the construction type fencing, the chain link fencing that we use for our construction sites that are 6 feet and above, in some cases that has not proven to work. There is a will, there's a way. So we are considering other options at this time as well, but have not made a determination what would be best for our community.
Okay, because I think there was some kind of material other than that. It seems like the caution tape is so flimsy, it's really easy to take it off, but I heard something about maybe they were using just some kind of material that was more durable, that was harder to just tear off, but it also is probably more expensive, so
Yeah, President Wilson, we will continue to look for alternatives in how to secure the playgrounds and keep people off. And again, if we do have something, we will present it back to commission, and it's all going to depend on how long we have to live in this world. So it is something we'll be considering going forth. And we're having discussions regularly about the best alternative.
Okay, great, thank you. And the one other thing I was just going to mention, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but, and I don't even know if this is the appropriate time to, you were talking about trees, and it reminded me, there's a lot of places where I've noticed, the parkway, the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the street where there are blank patches without trees, and I'm wondering, how's that going? Are we going to get some trees filled in these spaces?
President Wilson, if it is within the parkway, jurisdiction falls to our Public Works Forestry staff. The forestry, actually, they manage the trees within our parks as well. So if we have a work order or a tree trimming, replacement, removal, we reach out to our friends in forestry and they handle it, right away. So I do know they have a program within theirs. They look at, annually, they have several districts that they've divided the operation to, and then each district has a specific timeline of when they get planted, and they do highlight all of those vacant spots. They budget for, they plan, and do replace. But if there are any vacant locations the residents might have in their, on their street, and or businesses have, they can always contact forestry. I apologize, I do not have the number off the top of my head. I believe 818-548-3950 is Public Works. If they reach out to that number and let them know the location and address, and I believe the staff can look into that, and they are very responsive. They will look at that and take appropriate action.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. We have two more. I don't know. Do we have presentations for
Yes,
these?
President Wilson, members of the commission, if you don't mind, I would like to ask if we could take the Human Services report next out of order. So Iris could read it into the record, and if you are okay with it, we'll present that one first, and then we'll do the recreation
I
report.
have no problem with that.
Okay, and that would be item 7E, Human Services Section Activity Report, Community Development Block Grant Program.
Good afternoon, President Wolfson, commissioners, and staff. I'm Maggie Kavarian, Senior Community Services Supervisor, here to present the Human Services Activity Report, which is related to the Community Development Block Grant Program. The Community Development Block Grant Program is better known as CDBG. It's a federal entitlement funding from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is allocated to the City of Glendale every year, and over 1,200 localities as well throughout the United States. The main purpose of the CDBG dollars is to provide programs and services that benefit low to moderate income households, individuals, people, and also to eliminate slum and blight in communities. We have a 5-member community CDBG advisory committee, and they make funding recommendations for public social services programs and capital improvement programs. And they are not just for nonprofits, but there are city-sponsored programs that receive funding through CDBG dollars. Staff issued a RFP proposal back in November of 2019. We sent out a email blast and social media blast to over 100 nonprofit agencies that are seeking CDBG funding. Staff also reviewed all the RFP packets that came in, and in February, the CDBG Advisory Committee met in these chambers to make funding recommendations. They would interview the agencies, determine funding recommendations, and determine who they want to fund and what program priorities that they want to serve that year. For fiscal year 2020-2021, City of Glendale received just under $2 million in CDBG funding. 65% of that money must go towards capital improvement projects. That's about $1.3 million for community agencies and city-sponsored projects. 15% of that funding is allocated to public social services, and there's a cap on that. And that is shy of $300,000 for fiscal year 2020-2021. The remaining 20% goes to program administration to administer the program. We had 17 total funding proposals that we received this year. One agency withdrew their proposal. We had 14 proposals that were received from nonprofit agencies for public social services and 2 for capital improvement projects. Of the 14 proposals that we received for public social services, 12 were recommended for funding. We also had 2 new agencies receive funding, which is the Children's Burn Foundation and the Armenian Cultural Foundation. We'd like to highlight this because City Council gave us a directive back in 2018 to really get the word out about CDBG funding to newer agencies. So the bulk of the social services that were funded and recommended went to youth and teen programming, over 65%. Also, we had adult and counseling case management programs funded and homeless services funded. The City Council also wanted to fund a 3rd new agency, the Boy Scouts of America, Vertigo Hills Council, in the amount of $10,000 this year. So $10,000 that was originally recommended for the Essentia Homeless Outreach Program would then be funded through homeless services section as part of the CARES Act money that we received this year, allowing both organizations to receive $10,000 in funding. So it all worked out. 2 capital improvement projects were approved this year for full funding. That includes Catholic Charities. They have a Glendale Community Center, which needs a new roof, so they're handling a roofing project that's upcoming, as well as Untitled Chapter's main campus. That is also a roofing project that's coming up this year. The remaining CIP funds were allocated to city-sponsored projects, and one of them is Pelanconi Park Playground and Shade Structure Project, which is going to give the city about $495,000 to start working on that. $486,000 was set aside to pay off the Section 108 loan repayment for the Essentia Access shelter. It's an access center and emergency shelter. We had a 10-year loan, and we're going to be paying off in its entirety this year. Additional funding was also made available this year due to COVID pandemic. So CARES Act funding was also allocated this year to the City of Glendale on April 2nd, which gave CDBG $1.17 million for immediate use to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19 pandemic. City Council direction prioritized 3 city programs to receive funding under the CARES Act. $572,000 for emergency rental assistance. That's going to be helping about 380 households receive $750 a month for 2 consecutive months. And that will be handled by the Community Development's Housing Division. Another $572,500 is going towards low-income small business grant program. That's going to allow 114 Glendale businesses to receive a $5,000, one-time only $5,000 grant to continue operating during COVID. And this is also being handled by Community Development's Economic Development section. $30,000 is set aside for our senior nutrition program. So that will help us provide another 3,000 additional meals in fiscal year 2020, 2021, but it also includes our cooling fan assistance program. We purchased 500 cooling fans back in April, and we're almost done giving them all away because of the summer heat that's impending, and it's upon us already. So that's also going to cover the cost of that. This concludes the Human Services Activity Report. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
What's the relationship between Park and Recreation and CDBG? Who controls who?
CDBG section, the Human Services section, which is part of CDBG, and Homeless Services and Senior Services, is under the department, the Community Services and Parks Department.
Yes.
Are under osmosis of CDBG, or they are under ours?
President Wolfson, members of the commission, basically we have the Parks Commission and we have the CDBG Advisory Committee. The CDBG Advisory Committee gives funding recommendations to City Council, and City Council will approve the final funding recommendations. We do also have a COC, a Continuum of Care Committee, which is not a Brown Acted committee, and they give funding recommendations for homeless service programs. So all the committees are at the same level, if we're looking at it organizationally. At the same, first as City Council, then the commission and committees, and then we have the staff.
We don't get any fundings from CDBG, Parks and Recreation.
No, the city programs are not funded through CDBG besides our capital improvement projects. Back in the day, we had a number of social service programs that were funded through CDBG, but it was council's direction to allocate those funds to the nonprofit organizations.
You mentioned the 10-year loan with Essentia. How many years into that loan are we before we paid it off this year?
We were in the 9th year of a 10-year loan. So we only had 2 requests for proposal for capital improvement, and for the first time in, I'm sure, a long time, we actually had funds left over. So the funding that was left over, we had given the CDBG Advisory Committee some options to hold off on funding and just put the money aside in a pot and wait until the following year and fund nonprofits, or to pay the Section 108 loan repayment, and or to put it towards the Pelanconi Park project. So they decided to put it towards the city projects.
Thank you.
Commissioner Everly, do you?
I would love just a very short snapshot of what Catholic Charities and Home and Admin, what services they provide to the city, or to the community, not the city.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Everly. Catholic Charities provides homeless services, homeless outreach programs, food pantry services, case management services at that Glendale Community Center, which is on San Fernando Road. Untitled Chapter is also actually on San Fernando Road, and they offer youth services, youth programming, and youth sports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Wolfson, are you ready for the next item?
Yes.
Okay. Iris?
The next item is 7D, Recreation and Community Services Section Monthly Activity Report for July 2020.
Good afternoon, President Wilson, members of the commission, city staff. I think this is a little better, no? Okay. My name is Savag Garavidian, Senior Community Services Supervisor, and I'll be doing the Recreation and Community Services Section Monthly Activity Report for the month of June and July. So I'll begin. We'll be on slide 1, which is COVID-19 closures. Give me a chance. We're going to go about 3 slides with this topic. So back in March 13 of 2020, all of our sports and recreation areas closed down until further notice, which included our playgrounds, our picnic tables and shelters, splash pads, fitness equipment areas. This is the outdoor fitness equipment areas, basketball courts, skate parks, volleyball courts, and all fields, including baseball, soccer, softball, and multipurpose fields, except as permitted for sports camps. Okay. All park buildings and indoor facilities were closed down as of March 13, 2020, which included all of our community centers, our community buildings, the Verdugo Job Center, our gyms, our indoor gym, our computer labs, and our multipurpose rooms. All events were canceled indefinitely, and all recreation programming and classes stopped taking place. That includes our sports league, our instructional classes, our contract classes, our drop-in programs and activities, and some classes, some of those classes, excuse me, we recently converted to virtual programming since. I'm going to move on to the next slide. As of May 9, the following items some items started coming back online. So as of May 9, golf courses, not including pro shops, were able to operate and open. Parks, not including playgrounds, sports courts, picnic amenities, exercise equipment, were able to be open again. Trails and trailheads were open again. To help keep them open, we asked everyone to adhere to the protocols, practice social distancing, wear a face covering, not gather in large groups, and communicate with others as you pass them by, and packing out their own trash and basically not leaving trash behind. As of May 16, tennis and pickleball courts opened, Palmer Community Garden open, and equestrian facilities, our equestrian facility at Riverwalk opened back up. Moving on to the next slide. As of June 12, the protocols or the county orders allowed us to operate day camps. As you all know, we started our day camp program on July 6 to be able to prepare ourselves for the new day camp protocols and make sure everything had fallen into place. Our gyms, we do have an exercise gym, an indoor fitness gym at the Adult Recreation Center. Considering that's at our hub for senior services where our meals program and everything takes place, and considering our congregating for seniors is still not advisable as they are high risk, we decided ultimately to keep that gym closed and keep that facility closed to the public and able to, in order to keep our staff safe and our program safe as well, so to speak, use air quotes for safe. Pacific Park Pool opened up for for recreation and lap swim on June 15, and our splash pads, Pacific Park and Cerritos Park, opened up on June 15 or shortly thereafter, but given our recent protocols that were given on July 2, we shut those back down. It's just the protocols call for constant sanitization of the touch pads and touch surfaces, which we weren't able to operate. And our last slide, as of June 22, our fields for sports camps and sport clinics following day camp guidelines we started opening back up. These are youth groups that wanted to operate a youth sports camp, whether it's a soccer camp or a baseball camp. We started reserving our facilities to these groups following the day camp guidelines or the child care guidelines. And as of July 7, Pacific Park Pool opened up for swim lessons. In the middle of all this, we were still able to have some recreation fun. On June 27, we featured a drive-in movie at Lot 30, which is a city parking lot on the corner of Verdugo and Mountain. The event took place. Doors opened up at 7 p.m. and the movie started shortly after dusk, around 8:30 p.m. We had 131 vehicles RSVP for the event, and we capped off almost overnight. We advertised the event on social media exclusively, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And overnight, we sold out and we stopped taking cars and created our wait list. Staff estimates that if you average out 4 people per vehicle, we had about 400 participants at the event. The screen and equipment was sourced through an outside vendor. Our staff arranged for the movie license, gathered all the food trucks, and the portable restrooms and the logistics for the site when it comes to traffic plan, where the vehicles will be parked, and all of that good stuff. Moving on to the next slide. Here's some pictures of the food trucks and how we had the vehicles staged. Food trucks were Recess Ice Cream Truck, I want to say Flamin' Hot Chicken, OG Kebab Truck, and Auntie Anne's Pretzels, which you'll see on the top right. It's kind of further away. Now, all of the event, the sound for the event was via FM transmitter, so there was no impact to the community. When you're driving by, walking by that event, and you stop to take a listen, all you could hear is the humming of a generator from the food trucks. No other sound could be heard unless you're directly next to a vehicle. So as I mentioned, our summer camp program started on July 6, and some of the changes since our last commission meeting is due to the increased number of cases within LA County. We had some parents expressing their concerns about the increased cases and their safety for their children. So we had some parents ask for refunds and remove their children from the program. An additional challenge we've been facing is our staff. Our staff are also concerned about the number of increased cases in LA County over the last couple of weeks. And they've changed their minds and making themselves available to work. Having said that, during our commission meeting back in June, we said that we would offer the 30, 40, 110, and 160 spaces respectively, as the slide suggests. We've had to reduce those numbers based on staffing, based on what we're seeing, and just to maintain the adequate levels of staffing based on LA County's protocols. Moving on to the next slide. Despite those challenges, our camps have been successful. Like I said earlier, we've started week 3. Today is day 1 of week 3. Overall, the response from children has been happy. I talked to one parent who was like, I don't know what you guys are doing at camp, but my child came home tired just by whatever activity. I mean, any kind of activity other than sitting around at home is some sort of activity, right? Child wanted to go to bed so they could go to camp the next day. And we've had numerous examples of parents sharing that type of information with us. Campers have been engaging in arts and crafts, decorating their own masks, and we give them an opportunity for mask breaks when they're outside, when they're socially distant. So what I wanted to do was just share some pictures of our camps and talk about our camps, just so you guys have a better idea. We know what traditional camps look like, but just so you guys could see. So moving on to the next slide. The few board games we're allowed to have, such as Connect 4 or Battleship, where pieces can be easily sanitized between users, we've deployed that into our camps. Here you see one of our staff holding out one of the kids' tie-dye creations, and those are the white masks that we've been providing to the kids that say Parks Make Life Better on them. I believe Gabrielle's wearing one today. And basically every child that's entering camp, they could tie-dye and customize their own mask. Camps are making door hangers. What they put on it is basically up to them. If they want to take that home and put it on their door, to let their parents know, don't bother me, I'm on the video game system or whatever the case may be that's on them. We've got, we're allowing the kids to get up on the whiteboards, use dry erase markers, and be creative. This picture stood up because the kid's doing a really good job drawing a dinosaur, and kind of hard to do on a dry erase board. Moving on to the next slide. Here you see more activities. Stuff that we normally see at home, we're actually bringing into the day camp program as well. For example, I see my 7-year-old trying to imitate Fortnite dance moves. It's a video game that they are able to download, and in that video game, there's a bunch of different dancing styles. So what we've been doing is putting it on the TV and having all the campers participate, within their own respective space and try to imitate those dance moves. Also, I'd like to highlight our partnership or collaboration with Glendale Unified School District. Glendale Unified School District is providing meals for all 4 of our day camp locations this summer, not just the specific 2. And basically what our staff has been doing daily is picking up the meals at 10 a.m. from their kitchen, which is at Pacific Community Center at Edison Elementary School. And with the help of aquatic staff 4 times a week, we're able to deliver those meals to Brand Park and at the Civic Auditorium. Our staff at Maple Park come to Pacific, pick up the meals, and deliver them to Maple Park. So all 4 of our camps are having some sort of a meal provided by GUSD. Now, GUSD's summer lunch, seamless summer lunch program allows for 2 meals a day, 1 breakfast, which is usually a cold breakfast, and then a lunch, which is typically a hot lunch, and it's on a 2-week rotating cycle. And GUSD was nice enough to switch it to a hot lunch so that the kids aren't sick of sandwiches by the time day 3 rolled around. So. Moving forward, you'll see some pictures of our camps taking advantage of some of the resources that we have within our department. So our ping pong tables that were typically stored at the Adult Recreation Center, we've relocated to Maple Park, Pacific, and soon to be at the Civic and Brand Studios as well, just so the kids could play ping pong, which is actually a good enough socially distant activity where you have a table separating how far the kids could be. Every kid will get their own ball, and we'll sanitize the paddles and stuff like that. Pickleball is another one that we're allowing for the kids to play because we could sanitize the balls and the paddles. And then you see some arts and crafts. And you see some pictures of Maple Park Community Center as well. Some more craft projects, more augmented, shifted games, whether it's kickball or whatever the activity might be. Some dancing is going on at Maple. And then moving forward, we'll be on the slide here, outdoor at Maple Park. Some, the staff put gloves on all the kids. All the kids are wearing masks, and now they're playing hot potato outside. Gives the kids an opportunity to still go outside, play in the shade, but augmented traditional games the kids are playing. Here you see soccer. Given the small number of kids, it's actually feasible to do and not be over their heads. Moving on to the next slide. Maybe. There we go. So we highlighted in the commission report last week on the Unified School District's board decided on a remote learning model, and they voted in that remote learning model for the school year of 2020-2021. Given that remote learning, they're going to need assistance with childcare. In their presentation, they said that they're going to be working with the Parks Department. We've been in contact with them saying, what is it your school year going to look like? Not just because of childcare, but because of our collaborations and our programs that are dependent on their school year, such as One Glendale. So having said all that, we have some meetings coming up in the next few days to figure out what their needs are, what the demand is, and see how we could augment and create some sort of a program together. So like I mentioned, Pacific Community Pool opened on June 15 for recreation and lap swim. Basically, it's 1 family up to 6 people per lane. Reservations were needed to be made ahead of time. And what we started since then is our swim lessons as of July 6. So people would call ahead, make reservations, and it was only recreation swim when we first opened up the pool. Starting July 6, you'll see here on the next slide, we started bringing in swim lessons. As well, July 7. A total of 82 participants registered for swim lessons in the first session. There's an additional 3 sessions that we're going to be offering by the time summer comes to an end. Each swim lesson is 4 participants, plus each participant needs to have their parent in the pool with them. And the lifeguards, instead of teaching the children in the water, they're actually teaching on the deck. So here in the slide, you could see a lifeguard using a paddleboard, giving instruction on what stroke or whatever the function is that the child needs to do while they're in the water. Moving on to the next slide, we talked about virtual programs. And here you see our youth and family services section and our therapeutic recreation programs section staff conducting their various virtual programs. So youth and family was the first, I want to say, in starting converting their programming to virtual with their teen night outs and their workshops. So right after that, they introduced their tutoring sessions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And while the tutoring grant ran out at the end of June, we're looking at different partners that we could work with when school starts to offer tutoring again. Sparr program is under Youth and Family Services as well, and they've been offering biweekly Sparr meetings. So for what we did in the month of April and May was do our wellness checks, but by the time May started, we started actually bringing these virtual programmings online. Therapeutic recreation slowly followed right after that. A different population, different concerns, but nonetheless, they're able to meet every other week, whether it's a Club Maple virtual hangout or Get Fit virtually. They're meeting every other week. And then starting in July, here you can see on the lower right, the picture is our Zumba class from last Tuesday morning. And we also had class on Wednesday and Friday, and hopefully tomorrow's class will have more participants. But what we're seeing is the main challenge with virtual classes that offer some sort of music and instruction is sound clarity and the operating space. What the instructor needs to have in terms of their technical abilities or the technology, what they need at home, and what the participant needs on their end. Typically, it's not the participant that needs the stuff, it's usually the instructor, but the instructor's familiarity and their ability to manage all of the different types of equipment. So that's been our challenge that we've been working with and pushing on. So it's actually been a blessing in disguise, saying that we're gonna start with line dance and then introduce Zumba and then introduce the next set of classes so that we could learn and get more experience as we proceed. And then moving on to our second to last slide. As you all know, July is Parks Make Life Better Month by the National Recreation and Parks Association. And this year's theme is We Are Parks and Recreation. And having said that, with the help of our colleagues at GTV6, we created a very nice video for all of you guys to watch that we'll be displaying on social media and on GTV6 as well. So let's take a there we go. It's kind of hard not to get emotional after that.
Talk amongst yourselves, I'm getting verklempt.
So that concludes my presentation. If there's any questions anybody would like to ask.
Well, one technical question. I know that CSP has the LED projection screen. With the drive-in movie, what size was that projector brought in if you brought it in from a contractor, and technical details of why that was done?
Sure, President Wolfson, Commissioner Michaels. So CSP has, I want to say 3 screens at our disposal. One is the 15-foot by 8.5-foot LED screen. Another one is a 17-foot by 10-foot metal frame, front or rear projection screen. And the other one is our actual movies in the park inflatable screen, which is 30 feet by 20 feet. All those screens, given that parking lot, would have been a little too small. So the company that we outsourced to provide the equipment for us, Street Food Cinema, their screen was 50 feet wide. So 50 feet in that big of a parking lot compared to 15 feet, that was the big difference, a difference of 35 feet. That 15-foot LED screen would have just looked like nothing was out there. Number one. Number two, no matter which screen we use, whether it was our own or not, we need to overcome the challenge of FM transmitter. I looked into some FM transmitters available via the internet. Some of the better ones, unfortunately, aren't FCC approved, let's say, or have a limitation, or you needed to get an FM radio license or something along those lines. And Street Food Cinema already had that equipment in place. So we were already negotiating with them to at least do the sound component with the FM transmitter until our director basically gave us direction. Let him just do the entire thing. Why mess with it and basically try to make 2 different systems work together? So essentially, it was a 50-foot screen with front projection capability, and our screen is, our inflatable is 30 feet wide, and it's front and rear, so we don't have the backing behind the fabric to be able to project from the front and have the picture stop. So,
Was the performance better than
our equipment?
Well, was the performance good enough so that you consider doing this project again?
Commissioner Michaels, I think so. It was my opinion that it went really well. I know those who attended were really grateful. Just like Cruise Night, we were talking about it earlier, people were really grateful that it gave them something to do. You know, given all the protocols and everything along those lines, it was something to look forward to. It was an opportunity to go out and do something with the family. We are looking at a different date. We don't have a location identified or a date identified at this time. So to answer your question, if the performance was good enough for us to repeat it, we're just trying to figure out where and when to repeat it. We kind of already have the movie in mind, but nonetheless, we're looking for some options.
Commissioner Eberle, do you have any?
I have no questions. Thank you, Safed.
I have no questions, just gratitude. Thank you.
No problem.
President Wilson, I'd just like to take this opportunity again to thank Seva, Gabrielle, and the recreation team for all they've been doing in the last couple of months. I know that especially with the closures and the opening, there's been a lot of hours put into. So I just want to thank both of you and your teams for endless hours of preparing for this new norm. So thank you both and your teams.
Thank you for amplifying. I said gratitude, but you know, that's a little understated, maybe. So I believe with that, we're adjourned. Okay.
Yes, those were all the items on today's agenda. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Ira.